It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Just follow that gorgeous sound all the way to your telly. It's time for Baby Talk. And we know toddlers, yes, I can speak from experience, are notoriously picky eaters. It's easy to stress about what we would consider normal. Is there a normal when it comes to your own baby? Well, on today's Baby Talk, occupational therapist and co-author of the brilliant, it's a Bible, Weaning Sense, Meg Faure now helps us figure out the most common picky eating issues and when to actually worry. Because a lot of the time you can just chill because baby will come right. So I'm going to introduce the two of you, Jamie Lee,
Hello.
Meg. You guys are going to spend a lot of time as another resident parent, new parents on the show.
How old's your bubba?
10 months old. So I feel like I'm literally going to be like stuck on you, pearls of wisdom right here.
I'll share.
It does become a very self-indulgent. We'll have a plan and then I'll have my questions that I need to ask her. We've sorted out sleeping and you really did help me sort out sleeping, so thank you so much. Now we're moving on to eating. Why are toddlers such picky eaters?
Yeah, well, the main thing is that they're going through the stage of autonomy, which is where they are asserting themselves, they're asserting their will, and they'll do it anywhere they can. So if it's on the playground, if it's what they're going to wear to school in the morning, if it's at bedtime, and definitely at the table.
If it's with broccoli.
If broccoli comes along. So that's a big reason. The other thing is that toddlers are fearful of novelty. They like things to be the status quo. Okay. So when something new enters the environment, like a piece of broccoli or some carrot sticks or something, they are likely to dig in their heels and say, no, go. And when you fight them, up comes the autonomy battle, and that's how it all starts.
Okay, so what would be considered normal? Like when you say normal eating, what would that be?
Yeah, so that's actually the problem, is that what many parents expect of a toddler is not what they should be expecting. So it's important to know that toddlers actually can exist on fresh air and love. I mean, they really can. They kind of can...
They're hardy little things,
They're hardy little things, so don't panic when they're not eating well.
Okay.
And generally, what is very normal is that a toddler will eat like we say they eat like a king for breakfast, a prince for lunch, and a pauper for supper. And that's what they do. They eat the most for brekkie, so they'll have this nice big bowl of, let's say, oats porridge or something, and then they go on to a medium-sized lunch, which you might not see as a parent, because your child might, for instance, be at play school. And then, so you think they've eaten nothing all day, because when dinner comes, they eat nothing at all, and that's fairly typical.
Yeah, and it's about reading that. You get to know your little one, really well, and I suppose added to that, it changes radically, and it feels like just when you get a handle on things, then it's something new, a new phase begins. What are some of the most common picky eating issues when it comes to toddlers, do you think?
I would say the most common one is the whites. So toddlers get fixated on whites only, which is white bread, processed cookies, potatoes, chips, chicken nuggets, yogurt, and cereal. Those are the whites, and they get stuck on that, and anything that's full of colour, like you mentioned broccoli, they get averse to. So that's a very typical one, and parents freak out because they want the fruit and vegetables in, and what will often happen is that they'll only have the whites, but they'll have some fruit for snack, and that's okay. So if your little one goes off veggies for a little bit in the toddler years, keep offering it, but don't panic that they're not eating it. It is typical.
It's so funny you mentioned the vegetables, because I always try to want to sugarcoat everything on and dip it in something to make it look different. So it doesn't look like broccoli, you know. Yeah. But is there anything that we can do as parents to, prevent fussy eating?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things. One of the biggest mistakes we make as parents is we fill them up on milk at night. And what happens is you develop this little cycle. So you go, they've eaten nothing for supper. Now they wake up at 12, 1, 4 in the morning. And so you give them milk every time because you think they ate nothing at supper, so I'll feed them in the night. But what have you done? You've given them all their calories at night, and then they won't want to eat in the day.
Blood sugar's nice and full when they wake up and they don't need it.
And then you're in a cycle. So then they start to take all their calories in at night and less during the day. And that's the biggest cause of picky eating at that age.
Does the same kind of principle apply to snacking at school? Because I know we get asked to send Jack to creche with a little, and we're able to get some nice healthy snacks in there. Sometimes he touches them, sometimes not at all. Or he'll just open a lunchbox and it's filled with tomato sauce. But does the same thing apply? How do you feel about snacking during school time, during the morning?
So little ones have to snack. Even at your 10-month-old age, they have to have 3 solid meals and 2 snacks. It's not that the snacks are the problem, it's what we give them in that snack time. So if it's a highly processed carbohydrate, like a chip or a cookie, or worse than that, sweets, or even Energade, for instance, you're going to have a disaster with the next mealtime.
Are you crazy out
The
there?
things I hear.
Are you crazy?
The things I hear. So not for toddlers. So yeah, so you do need to watch what you're giving them for snacks, but you must give them snacks.
There's some great rice cakes out there. Just saying, great rice cakes out there. Thank you so much. Already picked up a couple of gems. We're going to continue this chat with Meg in just a moment. We're talking about picky eaters and how we can maybe sneak in a few little extra greens here and there with our little ones. But don't worry, whatever is normal to you, and you are doing just fine as a parent. That is the most important thing. But we'll continue to talk baby sense in just a moment.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
I love it. It is, of course, a Thursday morning, and it's Baby Talk Part 2 with Meg, and we're talking picky eating and fussy eating. I mean, pearls of wisdom with Meg. I love it. Thank you for introducing me to her.
Yeah, no, you're going to love this segment. As I said earlier, it does become very self-indulgent, but we've all got very similar questions as new parents or parents going through these kind of phases. In particular, we are talking about picky eating, moving into that toddler phase, weaning your child into the next phase of their eating. When should we become worried? You've kind of said that often there isn't the need to worry, especially if they're going through that phase where they're sticking to the whites, maybe not taking in as many greens as we'd like, but you can get a little bit of fruit there. But when does it become a worry? When can it affect their weight? Maybe that's one of the indications. When should we start thinking, okay, we need to do something?
Yeah, so first of all, if your toddler is full of energy, running around, sleeping well, and generally healthy, I mean, they will pick up germs, but generally healthy, I wouldn't worry too much. You know, then I would say they're probably absolutely fine. But if they're getting sick very regularly, then you could be concerned, and that would be time to have a look at a supplement, which your GP or PED could help you with. And there are also some fabulous toddler shakes that are out there that are actually nutritional supplements that you can give your little one at the end of the day, so that's a possibility. Also, if your toddler gets very constipated, so as I said, they get very stuck on the whites, and those can be very constipating.
Doesn't have a great fiber,
not great fiber, and maybe not enough water in their diet. So then I would say that would be another time to chat to your doctor as well. One of the tips you can use, though, is that if your little one has eaten fine for breakfast, average for lunch, and wants to eat nothing for supper, and you're worried, then go for a smoothie. And we actually, in Weaning Sense, in my book, we've got fabulous smoothies. One has got kale, quinoa, and berries in it. It tastes like a milkshake, but it's got that wonderful grain, quinoa, and then amazing kale or spinach, and that is a meal in itself. So don't try and sweat giving them a whole like roast dinner. Just give them a smoothie. It'll be fine.
Get the vitamin content in there and the fiber content in there.
Something you mentioned, I was weaning. Now, does weaning have an effect whether the child will be a picky eater later at a later stage?
Oh, your technique,
Yes, no, it certainly does. And you know, we actually set our toddlers up in years gone by. We set them up to be disastrous toddler eaters, because what we did was we weaned them onto white processed cereals early on. We didn't give them a lot of variety, and we often delayed the introduction of solids until the second 6 months of life. And what happens when you do that is you're entering a window period where they don't like novelty. So the best way to introduce solids is to do it a little bit earlier than 6 months, around 6 months or a little bit earlier, because what you do then is they're in that window of opportunity where they're engaging with the world, they're interested in what's happening, and so they're prepared to take the risk and try something new.
To experiment.
Absolutely. And the second thing you can do is add a huge amount of variety very early on. So don't go with processed rice cereal for a long period of time. Rather go with butternut, sweet potato, berries, and go in with lots of flavor. And even if your household eats curry, for instance, bring that in right from the get-go, you know, like from within a month after the little one's weaning, because those high flavors early on means that they're going to take more flavor later on as well.
And there's this kind of inclusive vibe. I remember one of the tips you gave me with weanings when you notice that your child is watching you eat.
Yeah.
And that can become wonderful, especially with Jack. He's loved kind of being a part of what I'm doing. Yeah. So when he sees you eating something, he wants to be a part. So maybe some tips on introducing. How do we go about, we've been talking about, you know, you cover it in gravy, or you cover it in tomato sauce, you cover it in sugar. You want to kind of discuss what tips do you have for introducing those foods?
Yeah, well, I mean, I loved what you said about sugar coating it, so-called. Now, take the sugar part out, but actually making it taste good is very important. And you know that if you boil a broccoli till it's mush, it's going to be disgusting.
You don't like it. Chances are they won't like it.
Yeah.
So lightly boil or lightly steam your veggies, and then actually flash fry them in coconut oil with some lovely healthy salts, low sodium salts. Tastes good, you like it, they like it, and that's a good way to introduce solids. Also, don't worry about adding fruit in. So if you're having a chicken casserole, put some apricots in it because those flavors work well, and the sweetness of the apricots and the difference of flavor, they might be more likely to engage with the food. So sugar coating it or making it taste better, there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, love it. Thank you so much. I'm quite hungry now, actually, but hopefully that's given you some tips on how you can broach this. Can be quite a tricky phase of your toddler's development, but it also can be a lot of fun. Just think of all those neural pathways you're opening up, you're waking up, introducing new things to them, but just go about it. Stick to it with a bit of commitment. If you're failing today, don't worry, tomorrow might be a completely different day. And enjoy the process. No baby is going to be the same. No process is going to be the same. So you got this. Don't worry too much. Your little baby will get there.